think I'm gonna record this to
doing,
Cloud.
Matt?
Hi.
Matt, how are you? Hey, this is actually, so you guys know, this is the first time that Matt and I have met as well.
Yeah.
We've talked on the phone, but I don't know how
Pray
everybody
for you, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know how everybody else's screen goes. Mark and Beth have dialed in. Mike's laptop up here, Mike Abbott, in our church. Jim and Sylvia Kenna, very active in our missions endeavors at church. Matt, why don't we just dive right in here? Introduce yourself, introduce the beautiful lady that's with you, and tell us a little bit about your family and where you're from. And, I'm going to throw this curveball at you, even how you guys met.
All right. Well, that might be a little much. I'll let her share maybe. Well, my name's Matt, and this is my wife Amanda, and we have 3 children. Jacob is about to turn 14, and then we have Leah, who's 11, and Noah, who is 7 years old. And we live here in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And both of us originally grew up just south of Atlanta, Georgia, and just outside the perimeter there. And so that's where we're both originally from. And I grew up doing construction with my dad, and just always been involved in church and missions. Even just I tell people I'm a product of short-term missions. And started when I was a young teenager, just going on week-long mission trips to even several months at a time. And the Lord always afforded me a great many opportunity especially through my high school years of traveling, and really developing a heart for people groups, I should say. And so we met. I'll let her tell you how we met.
Yeah, let's hear this, Amanda. Is it?
Well, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Even if it's through Zoom. So I grew up with really probably 20 minutes from where Matt also grew up. And so when we go down to visit, we do have all of our family essentially in one central place, which is good, but it's also a lot to juggle sometimes. So we met. I'm a PK. I grew up, and my dad was in every avenue of ministry growing up. And so I was, I guess, junior in high school, went to this random Bible study at an old car lot, actually, an old car dealership. And Matt was a youth pastor there, and he was a young youth pastor. I feel like I should put like a disclaimer on that. He was, I guess, around 19 when we met, and just kind of quickly he was not my youth pastor. I was just visiting a friend of mine. And so we started dating. We were both intentional about the Lord's leading and just not wasting each other's time if it wasn't for marriage. So Matt very quickly said he would like to marry me, and if I didn't want to, then we just weren't going to waste our time. So we agreed to continue. No, it was such a blessing. And I got married when I was 19. He was 21, 22, and we just celebrated our 15th anniversary. So
Congratulations.
Awesome. I met on a Wednesday, and I asked her to marry me the following Monday.
I mean,
And I said yes.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. I mean, I don't blame him.
She's regretted it ever since.
No.
So I think it's important that the folks from the church who are on here and who will watch this later, how we got connected up with Matt and his family, and with Matt and Amanda. So we have a common friend, Trey Salter, and I told the church a little bit of this story on a YouTube video, I think earlier last week. The days are running together. On when Trey called me and said, "Hey, I'm the kind of person that wants to see what is somebody else doing successfully in the mission field, and how can we help them?" Or I love creating new things, but if you see somebody doing something successfully, so I called Trey and I said, "Hey, what kind of ministries you got going on at the North American Mission Board?" That's where Trey works, and said that we could stop and see on the way back and forth across the country and possibly partner up with. And it was just immediate. He said, "Man, you got to go meet Matt and Amanda up in South Dakota." And we really tried to, but just due to some circumstances, we'll get there another time. But I actually thought Trey was joking with me at first when he mentioned that he wanted us to, because Trey and I have a little bit of history in that our families would play jokes on one another. And it wouldn't be beyond Trey's father really to say, oh yeah, send him up to this place called Porcupine, South Dakota, and it not even exists. So I had to get with Matt and verify this is a real place. You guys are real people. But no, Trey Salter at the North American Mission Board, again, connected us together. And you guys know how strong and successful our connection has been with the Baptist Friendship House, which we'll be at later this week in New Orleans. Trey recommended that connection as well.
And
So,
Baptist Haiti Mission.
yeah, and Baptist Haiti Mission as well, down in Haiti. And so those connections have come through Trey. He's kind of a resource guy for me, to look at him. Like, why reinvent the wheel? Let's take a look at what's successful and let's get connected with things that are successful. An example of that, Jim and Sylvia on the call, why reinvent something at Christmas? Let's do Operation Christmas Child. So anyways, I mentioned all that just so the church knows, and the folks that'll be watching and listening to this later on, how this connection came together. And I really do apologize that we couldn't come to you during that time, but we'll get to that in a minute on some of the challenges that are facing you right now. I threw Matt up some softball questions a little while ago. I've already given him one. Tell us about, and either one of you, Matt or Amanda, either one, tell us about some of the ministries you're involved with there in the area.
Well, I pastor the church, which is where we're sitting right now is in the office of a camp building. We live at the camp. And so if we make reference to the camp, it's the Chanku Waste Ranch. It's a kids camp that we helped start.
Pronounce that again real quick, because.
Yeah, it's Chanku Waste. It's spelled like W-A-S-T, so it looks like waste, but it's got an accent mark over the E. So Chanku Waste, it means the good road. Chanku in Lakota means road or path, and Waste means good. So it means the good road, and so that's just the name of our camp. So we live here, and we have 150 acres here, and we work with 2 other families that live here full time as well on the camp property. And so everything on the camp property we do under is its own entity, I guess, which is the Chanku Waste Ranch. And we have everything from kids camp through the summer, a free kids camp that we do. We try to do vocational classes in different areas when they're provided, such as welding or sometimes construction. We've done electrical things. We've done gardening classes. We've offered different things through there. We've done some individual discipleship here with folks that have lived here at the camp with us, and some of the temporary housing of working with them, of just even that one-on-one discipleship of showing how to study the Bible or work through finances, or even work on GED, several things like that. And so that's part of our heart and ministry here as well, throughout year-long ministry here. And we're working on a medical building, which is hopefully we plan on having our first week of medical ministry in March, and it'll be a dental and vision clinic. And so we're in the construction process of that, and that'll be a new aspect of ministry. We've done some medical missions, but it's always used the Send Relief trucks. If you're familiar with the Send Relief trucks with NAM, we've utilized those for the last several years of going into communities and doing dental work. And so where we live, to kind of give you some background on that, is the Pine Ridge Reservation. Is home to the Oglala Lakota Indians people group. And so, which a lot of people know of as the Sioux. They fall under the big umbrella of the Sioux Indian tribes. The Lakota is kind of the band of Sioux people that we live with. And so there's very scattered numbers of the population here, but I would say roughly 25 to 30,000 that live here on the reservation. And the reservation is about 11,000 square miles. So it's a big area. It's not, people think, oh, ministry on the reservation, you probably know every pastor or missionary that lives there. And we do know a lot, because it is kind of a small town atmosphere, but it takes a couple hours to drive from one side to the other. It's not just all right here together. So they have Indian Health Services, which is IHS. And so a lot of times the ministry or the function of the tribal governments there is lacking, to say the least. I mean, it's free healthcare. And so a lot of times they'll just pull teeth or, It's really hard to get appointments for even vision. So you could wait months, if not years, before you can get a vision appointment. We have 2 eye doctors on the reservation, and we have 2 vacancies. So that tells you we don't have an eye doctor on the reservation right now. So nobody's getting an eye appointments, but it's free, And so, and same with the dental. We have really 2 dentists on our whole entire reservation, and health is very poor, poor health, and just a lot of diet and dialysis, and teeth are one of the first things to show some of those things. And so instead of repairing a tooth for even children, a lot of times they'll pull the teeth, and then then they're chewing all on one side, and then by the time they're in their 20s or 30s, they are having to pull the teeth on that side. So it's not uncommon to see people in their 30s or 40s that are missing most of their teeth.
Okay.
And so part of our heart in this endeavor is to save teeth, hopefully doing more root canals and implants or crowns, and more repairs to save a person's tooth rather than just pull it. And so that's kind of the heart and the vision behind this endeavor. And so we're excited to try this out. And we believe this is the direction the Lord's leading us in, meeting a physical need, creating more of a platform to share the gospel through that. It's been successful through the sin relief trucks. And so we're excited to have a more permanent building.
And that creating a platform to present the gospel being the goal, I love hearing that. It's not just about let's do something to be doing it. There's a goal in mind. And that was the attractive part about, maybe getting involved with you guys, is building those platforms to make that happen. I didn't send you this question ahead of time, but tell us a little bit about how important it is to build those platforms, because there's been a lot of, and this is a little bit to my reading, but also what Trey has shared with me, there's been a lot of people come and go on the reservations, and it's caused an apprehension amongst the people. Tell us a little bit about that, and what and how important it is for you guys to be building those platforms.
Well, one of the when the Lord first started calling us here, one of the things I read just in passing, there's all kinds of information you can find out there about Pine Ridge. Just Google Pine Ridge Indian Reservation statistics, and you'll find all kinds of numbers, and mostly negative things. I've heard it said one point that we lead the country in everything you don't want to lead the country in, and that's pretty true. Our numbers are staggering in a lot of the negative ways. But one of the things from a missions standpoint is I saw that the average pastor on Indian reservations, and this is around North America, I believe this encompassed Canada as well, but last less than a year. And that was one of the statistics I'd read from a church standpoint. There was a big turnover of pastors. And I think a lot of it is coming in with this gung-ho, we're going to see a great revival, because it's almost like the mindset that people here have never heard the gospel. And that's just not the case. We're actually a very gospel-rich place in the sense of we have a lot of resources. If I like to use the resource, joshuaproject.net is a website that says, that talks about different missions around the globe. And one of the things that you can look at is you'll see red, yellow, and green dots all over the globe, and they represent people groups. The green represents people groups that are reached, predominantly reached, that have greater than 5% that claim to know the Lord Jesus. And then the red is unreached. But then you have yellow, which is what they consider nominally reached, which means they have all the resources available. The Bible is in their language. There's missionaries. There's freedom of religion. It's not a suppression of evangelism, but they still have less than 3%, less than 5%. Claim to know the Lord Jesus Christ. So one of the numbers in our case is Lakota people is that less than 3% claim to know the Lord Jesus. It's not a lack of the gospel, though. It's a very clear rejection of the gospel. And that takes quite a bit of time to expound on why that is. The Lord's teaching us. We've been here for several years now, and I'm still learning things of why, but essentially it's how the gospel has been presented, I believe, by the church. And it's not one of those places where you, if you're coming to get a good pat on the back or see great reward instantaneously, you're going to get really burnt out or probably offended, and so it takes a little bit of thick skin, and the Lord is developing a thicker skin in us, and we've got a long way to go. God has blessed us with people around us, and I give him all the glory for the grace and the people around us, because we might not would last more than a year either. I know some great pastors on reservations that have gone home, or left, and my heart goes out to them, not putting them down at all. But at the same time, it does get weary. And so that's one of the challenges that the church faces in these type places. It's a rural place, there's nothing around here, so.
Yeah, you kind of laughed at me when I said, I want to come by there and Diane and I are going to take you and your family out to dinner.
Right.
That you guys thought that was kind of funny. I didn't have any idea what you were, particularly laughing at, but then you explained it to me. I'm gonna modify one of my questions for you, and I'm gonna ask Amanda, or either one of you is fine. We were going to talk a little bit about how COVID impacts you. We can do that another day. I'm kind of tired of hearing about it while we've been here, but anyways, tell me some of the rewards and challenges about raising a family there.
Sure. Is that to me?
Mm-hmm.
Matt's like, yes, that's definitely you.
So, well, to give you a little bit, we've been here for since 2012, so about 8 years, a little over 8 years. Our youngest son is 7, so this is all that he's known here. We joke that he's our child with no boundaries. He grew up in just a lot of land, a lot of freedom. I think I called him in another interview free range children at one point. And so just the freedom of growing up in this really place that is so different from growing up in the middle of Georgia. But one thing we've always said with our kids is they are, I think, one of the gifts that we see, one of the many, but one of the biggest things is I believe that our kids will grow up with a greater sense of compassion for them, even feeling what it is like for them to be the minority. I think that's really important. They are blonde hair, blue-eyed kids for the most part. And so at camp, all of our kids stick out like sore thumbs. And they've sometimes been on the receiving end of that negatively, but also they've come to understand what it is like to be different, and to also be very understanding and compassionate towards those who are different than you. And I think that's a gift that they might not have really grasped living somewhere else. So our prayer has always been that that our kids have a sense of compassion and just even generosity in hopefully every stage of their life. And we continue to pray that this would not just become our ministry, but that our children would really develop a heart for missions in general, not just for the Lakota people, but just in the grand scheme of things, just a heart for mission and a life full of compassion and generosity is our prayer.
Well, I'm certain that you are. I want to give you an idea behind our church, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about G3 Community Church, but we're trying to train a church that when we've gone to Haiti, when we first went to Haiti, we really had this expectation of let's do vacation Bible school. We had that. And so finally, after the first couple of trips, I think we've been there as a church 7 times. I've been 8. If after the first couple of trips, I was like, we need to not go in with an agenda, but I'm trying to raise the church this way. And each time we've gone to the Baptist Friendship House to say, what do you need for us to do? You've probably got groups that'll come in and they say, we've got a puppet group, or we like to sing, or we like to do all these different things. How important is a church partnership outside of the reservation, like G3 Community Church? And also, how can we, what would that look like? And how could we help you if we came to help you? I know it's really putting you on the spot, but just to set any agendas aside and to say, how could a local church help you?
I think I've struggled with that balance over the years. Like I said, I'm a product of short-term missions. I totally believe in a week-long, 2-week mission trip. I think they're important for both sides. You're coming to help, but also for the health of churches. And God's blessed me with opportunities to be in churches, and I can say the healthiest churches I know of around this country have a missional mindset. I have two sisters that are missionaries in the foreign mission field, and we were just with each other recently, and we all agreed the most powerful churches to come alongside a missionary on the field is somebody that comes with no agenda. But also it energizes them, even if they're there for a week, to go back to their church. And you see that pattern through the New Testament. You see Paul, it was a reason he kept going back to Antioch. There was a reason he kept going back to Jerusalem. It just encouraged the church in a great way, beyond probably what we realized in that first century church. So when folks like to come, they want to come to our church service, and I don't mind that at all. But I always struggled with that because our church is small. We have 50 chairs set up in the auditorium. It's a small country church. When we first started coming there was maybe 7 or 8 consistent people coming. God has blessed and grown. And we were talking today, it's been different with COVID, but before COVID, we were averaging 40 to 50 people a week. And so children and all, even up above 60, some weeks. And so the problem was during the summer, our local folks would quit coming to church because you would have a group of, for lack of a better term, Caucasians or white people come in, and they would show up early and they would fill up half the room. And I literally would be preaching because our people come in late consistently. They're faithful about coming in late a lot of times. I had witnessed several times of being preaching and seeing someone that had been coming to church walk in, look around, and turn around and walk back out. I saw it many times. And that bugged me a lot. And so we started asking church groups not to come into the service. The equivalent would be like, 800 people coming into, a church that normally ran 400 or 500, you get 800 people of a different color, race, different culture to walk in and fill up the auditorium before the regulars get there. That would be fun for a week or 2 weeks, but after months of it, it would get old and the regular community people would quit coming. And that's what we witnessed. And so it's tough because you have a short-term mission team that wants to see what God's doing and they want to witness and be a part of that church and that culture and see the things that we've done differently. But many times it takes away from what God is doing of that community and fellowship, when some of the things that we struggle with as a church is community and fellowship. There's not a maturity level to kind of get over that stuff, and so I've seen God grow us as a church over the years, and we are maturing, but it's just not right to our local folks for a church to come in and kind of rob that
Right.
time.
Well, we want you to know that we're the type of church. And so this is where this has gone of like, we did have some sort of expectation coming in, to where our expectation is now is that I want Amanda to hear this as well, is that we come in, if you say, you know what, we'd rather you didn't go to our church service as much as you want to stay, because that's going to hinder. We don't want to hinder anything you're doing, whether that's a church service or whether that's going to a particular part. We're not going to be this church that begs you to go here or go there. We're just not going to do that. We typically set aside, I'll call it a play day, where we may take off, and I don't know if you guys know, you guys are what, hour and a half from Mount Rushmore, maybe 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So we may go do something like that, but we're there. We're serving you through Jesus Christ. And Amanda, this is the part that I wanted you to hear. You may have some things there in your own home, there at the camp, that groups come in and they want to work at the camp and they want to work out on the reservation. But if you say, you know what, we know that G3 Community Church will come in and they'll do something for us. We would rather do something for the two of you to make your life better and more enjoyable than to.
You'll do my honey-do list.
There you go. We would. Yeah. We absolutely would. We went down.
I don't get to it very often.
Yeah, we get down to New Orleans, and they said, well, we'd really like for you to pour these 2 concrete stoops. And all the while they're rescuing women from human trafficking, or they're doing all this stuff. It was like, we're happy to do it. And we cooked meals for them to make it easier. I'm not saying we're better. All I'm saying is that I want to just drop the guard that you have in the anticipation of groups coming in, because we've had groups in as well.
Yes.
We've had a lot of groups in at our church.
Let's explain this real quick.
Yeah.
When he started the church, when we started it, we had youth groups coming in for the summer, and they did that for us. And we were able to do things that we would have been doing if we would have had to do the things they were doing for
Right.
us, if that makes sense. They were doing the honeydew list for
Yeah.
us, so we could get out and minister to the people.
Yeah.
So we have that understanding. and
The
we have
group,
that
the
heart.
group we had come in, I won't mention their names,
Yeah.
but the group we had come in and said, now we need you to set us up a
Yeah.
time for our kids to sing in the morning and one in the
chill,
afternoon
we
and go to
might
these
go to
different things. I'm like,
the
whoa, wait a minute.
Wasn't helpful.
So in all that being said, and I see several people on here from the church that have been on these trips nodding their heads going, yeah, that's exactly what we do. We don't have that thing of where we have to get out on the reservation. Anything we can do to make your life easier. If you need to go, and if it's, us watching your kids, we'll background check the people
Yeah.
that do. There's a couple we don't, no, I'm just kidding. Now we trust everybody. So anyway, it's all those different things and what we can do. So I'll close this out with this. We've been about 25 minutes here, and I'll close with this question. Now, this is a personal question for the two of you, not for the church and not for the reservation or the people there. What can G3 Community Church do for the two of you? We're coming up on the holiday Christmas season. I say holiday season. That's okay. It's New Year's. It's Christmas. It's Thanksgiving. But on the Christmas season, what can we do to help you? This is, I mean, you can ask for anything. I'm really good at saying, no, we can't do that, or yes, we can. I wouldn't do that on this call in front of everybody. But what can we do for you?
That is really hard questions.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to answer it on this call in front of everybody. We want you to know, and you could talk to Kay Bennett at the Baptist Friendship House. This took, probably close to 3 years now for her to get used to this. They've now finally gotten used to, let's drop Pastor Doug a note and see what G3 Community Church can do. Our church isn't much larger than y'all's. If we, not during COVID, but we'd have about 80 in a non-COVID time, 75, 80 folks. I think the last time we got together at the school, we had 53. And that was in the middle of the COVID season. December the 13th, we'll get together for a month. We do church. We meet together in home groups once a month, a large gathering group once a month, home groups the following week, and then we have what's called Go Week. That's another story for another day. Mm-hmm. So we're similar sized churches, but we have divested of a lot of overhead so that we can resource missionaries. And it's not to the tune of hundreds of dollars a month. It's thousands of dollars a month that we're pouring out to now close to 15, 20 organizations and missionaries around the globe. So what I'm saying is that you don't have to answer that question right now, but to be thinking of, and by the way, I'm not treating y'all like I'm treating y'all like you're servants of God, not that you're poor or anything else. If your family needs something, let us know. We'd love to be able to help. So the church knows, I can brag on this a little bit. We sent Matt and Amanda just a little bit of money. It's not a huge sum, but I thought it was pretty cool. I said, go out for a night. Evidently, there's a new Mexican restaurant reasonably close by. Is that true?
It's a little ways away, but I figured that's where I'm going to take her.
All right. So, but when you get charged up about that, how far away is that?
It's about an hour and a half away.
Yeah. So we complain because we got
by the time we get to dinner, we've talked about everything we could talk about.
That's 3 hours in the car.
No, DoorDash isn't bringing it to you, right?
Yeah.
So anything like that. And so the folks on the call know what we'll do is that we'll get together on some different things. And Matt and Amanda, I'm sure you don't mind this. We'll get your information on our website so that Matt's already told me they're Amazon shoppers, everybody. In fact, Amazon shopping is really easy for them. They can buy a lot on Amazon Prime. Yeah, so they go right to the door, and so that makes life a little bit easier on them. So don't be. I'm not timid to ask folks. Drop them an Amazon card for Christmas. Send them something in the mail. If it's $5, if it's $500, whatever God lays on your heart, send it to them so that they can be blessed and anything just to, it may be that that $10 box of chocolate from Amazon makes Amanda's life a little bit easier, and maybe a little something to
I
keep.
feel like you know me so well already.
I don't know every woman well, but I know some generalities. There are some women that don't. Diane doesn't like flowers, so that's not her thing.
Not
So
my thing.
but peanut M&Ms, that is her thing, and she'll do that. So
Even though I shouldn't.
we've had a few more people jump on the call. I have recorded the call, and then what Harry Dressler over here on the other side of the screen is going to teach me how to do when I get off the call is how to download that and post that, and we'll get that out there. Anything else that, or actually anybody on the call from the church that has a question for Matt and Amanda?
Not a question, Matt, but just to help your understanding a little bit, Doug Sibsey is as absolutely crazy as he sounds, and he's got the rest of us brainwashed.
Yeah, that's right.
What he's telling you ends up being absolute truth. Whatever you guys need, one way or the other, this little group of folks will respond to.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We've got a fun little thing I haven't told Diane about yet, Jim, that the Baptist Friendship House needs socks.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
So from when we leave here tomorrow, we're going to find all the Dollar Tree stores between here and New Orleans, and we're going to fill the back of the truck up with socks.
Amen.
So we're going to do that. So we do some fun things like that. And actually, you guys aren't a million miles away from us. It's a drive, but I was trying to think because we were coming from Michigan. I don't know from
Y'all are y'all in Cincinnati?
Yeah, north of Cincinnati.
I know from Columbus, it's right at about 18 or 19 hours drive.
Yeah.
I'm in Columbus in about
That's nothing, man. That's nothing.
That's not
Nothing for Doug.
Yeah. Well, I mean, New Orleans is we're 15, 16 hours getting back and forth down
We did
there.
it in one day.
Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. So we're too old. Here we are.
In the
We're not,
church van.
and we're not even halfway through our trip on this yet. So we're 2,560 miles in of 6,500. So
wow.
You can pray for us too.
Any other questions, comments for Matt and Amanda?
Yeah, Matt, I know I joined a few minutes late. My name's Harry. Where is it you guys are located?
We're in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, southwestern South Dakota. It's right at the corner of Nebraska and Wyoming, and it's home to the Oglala Lakota people group.
Okay.
I think if you were to take Rapid City, South Dakota, Matt, make sure I got this right here, if I remember on the map, and you just basically almost go due east, kind of southeast.
South.
Yeah.
Well, I lived
Southeast.
in Omaha. It's been a number of years ago, but I lived in Omaha for a few years, and I remember taking a kayak trip on the Platte River up there.
Yeah.
I think is it right between Nebraska and South Dakota?
Yep.
Mhm.
I've been around the Platte River a little bit, driven across it anyway.
How
You
far
didn't
are
go.
you from Omaha?
From Omaha, about 7.5 hours. Omaha's on the very eastern side of Nebraska.
You're on-
My kids say that Nebraska, we homeschool our kids, so don't hold that against us, but my kids say that Nebraska is the biggest state in the country. And they're convinced of it because we've driven through it so many times, and it takes
So
forever.
long.
Drive them
It
through
does.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
Or Kansas City.
Exactly. Yeah, and Mike Abbott up there in the corner, at least he is on my screen. Mike retired kind of sort of not long ago. So we're looking for Mike to come out there with us as well and come on that trip. He's been talking about a couple of mission trips. Mike, don't be afraid to get with Matt and Amanda and ask them what they need and just start driving out there and seeing what they
I
need.
might do that.
Absolutely. You can ride your motorcycle out there. They'd love that.
That'd be a long, I'll stick to my,
Be a long-
We're not that far from Sturgis.
yeah.
Hey, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, we could go to Sturgis during bike week. There'd be a good move.
Yeah.
Not for me, maybe, but anyways, any other comments, questions?
I wanted to kind of finish. I didn't quite finish your question about how G3 could come alongside us.
Oh,
I just wanted to add on to that because I was talking about the balance that I've had a hard time of seeing that from short-term missions. But then on the other hand, our people, the ones that are mature, really thrive on seeing other churches come and worship alongside us. And so I never quite figured out how to balance that so much. We've gotten aware, because of space, we've asked churches not to come, or just send representatives. So send 4 or 5 people and to come worship with us. And so that's kind of how we found that. But I've realized our folks, one, we couldn't do it without support. When we started this work, there's no way we could do it without support. We live in one of the poorest counties in the country. And so when you have that mixed in with a lot of spiritual immaturity, I've seen our giving grow tremendously in our local church. But we're getting ready to venture out to plant a second location in January. And so that's just the move of God, and that's just everything we've seen God provide. So when you ask questions like, what do we need personally? This isn't a good fundraising tactic for anyone out there, but I always say the Haddens are not hurting. God has blessed us so much. We are not rich. We don't know where half our funds come from to pay the bills, but they get paid. And I can say that confidently because God is faithful. We don't lack anything. And I'm not scared to ask if I need it. Just being yeah, they can't see it, but that's in our office. It says whatever God orders, he pays for.
That's right.
And that is kind of our motto, and in a sense. And I just I covet people's prayers for wisdom, and we covet churches to come alongside us to do exactly what you were talking about, just basically holding our hands up to love people, to do what God's called us to do. And we've seen God allow us to do that in great ways. We've been blessed with some great churches, and just stepping out to plant another church location is just a God thing. And I know that God brings, not only does he pay for things in money or resources, but also in people. And I've seen that time and time again, where he brings the right people at the right time. And so I just appreciate your heart, just filling those needs, of seeing needs and acting on it. In Matthew chapter 5, it says, when Jesus, and seeing the multitudes, it was like he saw the multitude, he had compassion on them. You know, he was moved by his compassion for people. And so I'm grateful for pastors like you, Brother Doug, of just having compassion and moving, not just looking and not doing anything, but moving by what you see. And so I'm grateful for churches that are willing to stand beside us or even just do whatever. And so thank you for that. But we're always, looking for churches to come alongside us. I mean,
well, we're a very legalistic and strict church. So I think what we ought to do is vote while we're on the Zoom call of whether we're going to support Matt and Amanda. No, we're not either. I'm just Amanda was like, I vote yes, yes. No, we are. It's the trust that I have in mostly in Trey, not necessarily the North American Mission Board, but in his recommendation. We've already planned on, we're adding you to our support list in 2021. We already know that. We don't have to come see you. And now don't get too excited about what are we talking about here? It's just not a ton of money monthly, but I do mean that. I guess it's the way I've trained the church. We'll put you in that monthly budget for a little bit of support each month. But on the other side of that, here's what the church does really well is they do rally around those individual needs. You can say and we've had this is a real example. We had the Baptist Friendship House say, we've got, we need a computer and we need to get that and we need that right away. I put a note on Facebook. It wasn't 15 minutes. Somebody, wasn't even somebody in our church, raised their hand and said, we'll buy the computer. Just tell us where to send it. So we're good at those things. It's sometimes it's tough to budget, the hundreds of dollars a month, but sometimes it's easier to say, hey, we've got a project here, or we've got, this particular need. Let us know those things and be happy to do it. Our church is big on Amazon wish list as well. We do that with a couple of different organizations. So throw those things together, keep us informed. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Let's have a word of prayer. Sorry to cut the call short, but we've been 40 minutes. So we're gonna wrap this part up. Won't be the last time we talk to Matt and Amanda. In 2021, one of our Wednesday nights a month, we're going to be setting aside just to talk to a missionary just like this. And there's more people on here than typically are on a Wednesday night on our call. So they get more excited about talking to you guys than they do about talking to me and talking and hearing me
Listen to you.
share a devotion. So we'll be doing that in 2021. But let's take some time out. Let's have a word of prayer for Matt and Amanda, and then we'll let everybody get on their way. Diane and I'll stay on here for a few minutes if we want to yak or something. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together. Thank you for Matt and Amanda and their family. God, we ask you to be with their children, that at times I know they have to be patient. At times they have to be understanding. That's difficult for children, but God, you've not given them obviously a spirit of fear. God, help them to charge forward in what they're doing and learning what's going on. Prepare Matt and Amanda for the idea that their kids are probably going to go into the mission field. A number of them probably will. So prepare their hearts for that. And I know that'll bring them great joy. Ask you to put a hedge of protection around Matt and Amanda. Keep them safe from Satan, and just God, just let him have no influence on what they're doing. God, let them be blessed in their endeavors. God, those blessings, that prosperity you'll bring to their ministry, it may be in lack of anxiety. It may be in riches and blessings that may be financial. It may be a non-material thing, but God, just bless them. We ask you just to pour that out into their ministry and what they're doing. Thank you so much, Lord, for introducing us to Matt and Amanda and what they do there. Thank you for our common friend in Trey Salter and recommending them. God, be with us now as we go our separate ways, that God, you would just keep us all safe. And we love these times together. And thank you for the technology and making this happen. In your name I pray. Amen. Matt and Amanda, we appreciate it. Diane and I'll hang on here for a minute if anybody's got any questions, anything going on. But everybody on the call, feel free to log off whenever you like. But Matt and Amanda,
Good to
thanks a
see
lot.
y'all.
We appreciate it.
Thank you guys. We enjoyed it.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yep.
We have a church that comes out that has been coming out since we've been here. Actually, one of our families that live here, their home church is in Pickerington, Ohio.